speaker down out there at the desk? Oh, just close the door. Close the door.
I was already talking. Oh, whoa. Iowa State beat Texas Tech.
Is that right?
66 to 10.
Sound like a basketball game.
Lord, Texas over Kansas. Baby.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Are we broadcasting?
Yes, indeed.
We're live on
You're live on YouTube.
YouTube on the Yaggah Man Show. He's in studio today.
This is the Brother Talk unedited, uncensored. So definitely.
He's in the Black Coffee Studio today. We have the Yaggah Man, Brother
Yes,
Jamal.
indeed.
Yes.
So you were asking me a question about hold on one second. Let me intro
Yeah.
recording. In studio today we have the Yaggah Man, Fabrice, and Brother Jamal here on Black Coffee with Ahad Muhammad.
Yes,
And we just have a little brotherly conversation. So, I didn't want you all to miss it. I really wanted you to be a part of it. So you were asking a question, brother. You asked a real serious question. Run everybody just one more time.
I ask you this. I hope.
You don't have to whisper. They're not.
Put some bass in your voice.
Okay.
Proud to be black. Put some bass in your voice.
Hey, okay. Check this out. Check this out. I always read about this secret society. Do you believe that we should have a black? I just want to ask because most of the time, all I hear about the Illuminati, it's always with European and Western world seems to be controlling that. And I believe that for black folks, with Africans, we have to make it to the Cubans to sort of make some improvement, just like I believe the Asians have. We should have a a secret black society just to control, just to kind of educate us. And I just believe it. Do you believe in that? Because I believe in God.
Well, you have to look at it in its proper perspective and truth. The black church.
Yes.
This is going to sound very strange to you,
Right.
but if they understood Scripture properly, if they understood who the black man in America is in regard to Scripture and God, you would not need a black secret society. The secret is that black people are the choice of God, and it is written in Scripture.
Right.
The problem is that black people will not accept it because they want to infringe themselves to everybody else other than look at what God has actually brought for them from himself. When you look at the Scripture, you look at the Abrahamic covenant.
Yes.
You look at the monotheist religions under the Abrahamic covenant.
Right.
There's a requirement to be that people of choice in that covenant.
True.
It says, God talking, your people will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they will serve those people in that land for 400 years. I'm coming to get them from the people that they're serving myself. But when you look at the history of America, you can't find, or the world, you can't find any other human beings that's ever been in bondage to any people for that period of time other than the people or black people here in America. So if we would settle on the fact that God is actually backing us up, we wouldn't have to have a secret society because God don't need no secrets because your arms are too short.
Yes. This is real, people. This is real.
You know how when they go to a boxing match and they tell you to reach? Well, whatever yours is, it's too short.
That is, I like that.
But the problem is we don't want to accept that.
But why so? Do you believe this? It's because of we are too caught up, or we are too systematically just into it, because I believe the system seems to be segregating us.
Brother, we're going to say this so you can hear it.
Yeah.
You're a black man from Cote d'Ivoire.
Mm-hmm.
In Cote d'Ivoire, they used to have a colonial rule.
Yes.
But he didn't speak whatever the language was there.
Yeah.
But everybody there probably before say right now.
Yes, because
of him.
All these years.
So when he got there was a real dark black man.
Mm-hmm.
A When he left, he got some folks who look like me.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen because it was equality. It happened because you see the remnants of a colonial rule. So now what you see in America is the black man in America is colonized.
But in what way, though, compared to the African? I mean,
There's no difference. We pay everybody's taxes.
Right.
We have no representation.
Right.
We buy our food from them. We buy our clothes from them. We are just a colony of America acting like we are actually citizens of the colony, which we're not, because we have no representation.
Right.
There used to be a statement that what taxation without representation is tyranny. I guess that's only for those who are in the majority, not the minority.
Man.
They call a minority understanding of that a rebellion.
Man, this is real. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up to my attention because I'm still reading history. Like, even with the American history, like I just mentioned earlier, like I watched 13 and how the beginning of the 13th Amendment was focusing on minority, or back then was slaves or black folks, basically who they didn't want us to be free. So in order for us not to be free, they have to implement rules and regulations, like law and order, if you want to call it, to where, because I know the South wasn't really, trying to compromise with the North. And I hope I get my history right.
Well, you're right. But you were about to say something more?
Yeah, I was going to say, let me ask you a question. Do you think that we are free?
After 20-something years in the United States,
No.
Well, but you came with a different understanding, right?
yes.
You came with a different understanding. Now, what is also deeply ingrained in what Brother Jamal said, Brother Jamal, in comparison to where he came from,
Yeah.
oh, brother, this is freedom on steroids.
Well, compared to where you came from, yeah, of course.
This is freedom on steroids, but it's a different kind of freedom.
Freedom.
It's a different kind of problem with that type of freedom, because when he's at home, they're looking at it as we're trying to build something ourselves, governing ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a reality that we don't have here. We don't govern ourselves, even though we might have people in the political system who are representing us. They take on the same mindset of those that they find of the majority in the system who don't represent the people that put them in office. So they go there, saying we're going to represent you at the state level or the city level or the federal level. But once you get there, they need all of that money that says, we can bleed them dry. They don't have to know.
That's true.
Now, you can be part of us, you can be with them, or you can be with us. And which one you want to do? This one pays more. Become a lobbyist. Become, apologist for black people. How do you become an apologist for black people?
That cracks me up all the time, especially. It's like I try not to throw like a newscast out there, but like CNN the most apologies black folks
And
and the stuff that they apologize for, it's like it's not even on the premise of what the real issue is, and it's just what you said hit it on a noggin, and it's like a lot of people just don't understand that premise of they actually have apologists for us, and sometimes we don't really need it, but they have it out there anyway.
Well, I think that the number one point that we all have to come to understand is that America changes spaces. It does not change ideas. The idea that America was founded on is set forth in the Constitution. And you have people here since that time and before who it did not include when it was written, and did not intend to include 461 years later. The problem is that we refuse to get up and do something for ourselves. I had to take my wife to the hospital yesterday. When I took her to the hospital, I saw nobody that looked like me. You know what I'm saying? She dealt with nobody who looked like her.
I mean, in the back of the desk, with
Nobody in the hospital.
just nobody, period.
We didn't deal with anybody that looked like herself.
I see where you go with that.
No, you really don't see where I'm going, but you're going to hear where I'm going.
Okay.
Now, when I was in Cuba, there was a sister who was out on the dance floor. We were scuba diving. And she got inebriated one night. And she fell off the back of this brother's back. Well, she was dancing, he was dancing, she was on the back. And she fell off and broke her arm. Now, we're on a little island called Islas de Juvenal. It's an island south of Cuba on the Cayman, off the, just north of the Caymans. And she goes to this town that is 40 miles away, Nueva Herón. And we go in town to look for the doctor. She pulls up at the doctor's office and knocks on his house door. The doctor brings her in. He sets her arm, he puts a cast on her arm, and sends her home at no cost.
That's Cuba, right?
I mean, that's Cuba. Now they broke. Now I won't tell you what the bill was when I went to see the doctor yesterday. I went broke.
Wow.
Okay. But if I had a black doctor in my community to see my wife, that would charge me something that would make sense for a visit to where you go in and they're going to ask you some questions with regard to how you feel, and then diagnose it based on your questions that they asked you, and then give you a bill for it. Well, let's make it reasonable. But we can't make it reasonable because we don't have a black hospital. We don't have a black supermarket. We don't have a black gas station. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't even educate our children in black schools.
Well, I mean, we do. The only thing that I have the issue with is the fact that we don't support our own businesses, though. I mean,
Well,
you can quote me on that.
well, that might be the case. Let's say that is the case. But what does that mean? What does it have to do with doing business?
They want a discount.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to touch on that. So the thing about the Black America is the fact that look for a discount. And we have a mindset that sets the fact that they see other races that do it like, oh well, prime example. Everybody knows they have a mechanic, Latino, and so they know that Latinos look out for themselves.
Right.
So they feel that we should be entitled to look out for ourselves, give us a hookup like you would give a hookup to the white man or Mexican man. But sometimes you gotta support that brother. So therefore he can get on his feet, get on his ground. So therefore he would have the opportunity to actually give you that hookup, right? Then it comes. See, that's one thing about us that we don't understand. And then we'll have the conversation that we had about 2 weeks ago. I started to do that. I know a few little black businesses that's around me that I go, okay, let me go shop there. Let me go support them. Because eventually, it'll come to me in 5 years, we're going to need that brother.
Yes,
and whoever brother that is, we're going to need them as well. So I kind of veered going away from the norm of the NASA. Let's go here, let's go here. I stopped going because of the fact that we need each other. And those businesses that was growing up when my grandmother was around, I would love to see that come back. See, all I can do is hear stories and relive and what you experienced. And we live with my mom's experience. And to me, I feel that's art being painted in my eyes. I wish I could live in that time. I don't want to be in that society where I couldn't do what I do now, but at the same time,
yeah. But wait, excuse me. I'm sorry, Neil. Which pill did you take? Blue or red? Because you do live in that society where you can't do what you want to do.
Well, I'm talking about like the racism.
But it is at its peak. It's even, that's the whole point. That's the point of what is a perceived freedom. I was watching a lip sync battle before I came. Right? My wife, that's one of her favorite shows.
Yeah.
With LF. And it was some brother dressed up as a woman. I call his name. I don't know. I can't remember to watch. But anyway, he dressed like Beyonce at the doing her show. You know how Beyonce dressed in the show. Yeah. And he's in lip sync battle against his other sister. My point is that just because you have a freedom to do whatever you want doesn't mean that you're really free. You're free to act in a certain manner and in a certain way. But when you start looking at it from the perspective, I'm going to do something to help benefit and change
Right.
in the community in which I live, then you'll see those freedoms start to constrain themselves around you and the people who really don't want you to be free. See, because when you go to that store that's in your, excuse me, you go to that building where you want your store to be in your community, and you have to go see them and, oh, you want to put in a store. What kind of store is it? You're like, well, what do you care? The building's empty. You going to rent the store or not? We like to check, if you are black or are you a mixed race? Because we're going to rent it to a mixed race person. And I know a lot of people don't believe that. But the beautiful part about what just took place on November 8th is that you're soon going to come to understand that you're going to meet every word that I'm talking about face to face. Have you noticed? Have you noticed a lot of trucks with American flags on them lately?
Oh
Yes,
man,
indeed.
Have you
have you
seen the flags waving?
Oh yeah.
Did you notice that they,
Yes.
did you notice you were like looking at that picture in your mind said, wow, the only thing missing is the Confederate flag.
I've noticed that.
Have you noticed that lately?
But I also noticed that the Trump supporters that I work at my job and I'm seeing, they ain't so pro-Trump that much now.
But they're not anti-white.
No, they not. Oh, they show us
They're not anti what Trump is saying.
No. Well, the thing is, they're kind of getting flustered because now all that stuff that Trump was running off that anger, the brother's backtracking.
Well, no, let's just put it like this. You really have to do, if you really want to be an enlightened black person in America, you have to look at who they don't want you to study. So, I had a good friend, he's no longer with us, and may God be pleased with him. But it was Brother Collard that blew him behind. And Brother Collard used to say, whatever the enemy's for, you should be against. And whatever the enemy's against, you should be for. So you have to look at what's really taking place right now. And the reason you have to look at it and study it from a higher understanding is that before the election, you saw all of the Black Lives Matters movement dealing with the killing of black men. They didn't deal too much with the political aspects of things. They would go throw some stuff at Hillary every now and then and go and fringe on a Trump rally every now and then. But immediately after the election was over, there were rallies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that seat went from a black seat to a white seat.
That's
People walking.
switched up.
But wait, now study the history of America and study what was the number one reason for many of the wars that were fought here on these shores prior to fighting war somewhere else. It was fought over who would control the black economy and black people. You know what I'm saying? And they already showed you that Sessions is Alabama. You know what he said? He's down there in the country where my people from.
Right.
And, he already let you know, I ain't got no love for you, and I'm about to be the Attorney General in this movement.
Right.
You hear what I'm saying? So since he's about to be the Attorney General in the movement, why do you think somebody like that would get an opportunity to do that? Why do you think that they said that this guy is a choice? I mean, I'm not mad at Donald Trump. I'm actually glad that he chose the man because it lets us understand that there's no longer any veil that's hiding the fact that racism is alive and well in America.
Yeah, I believe
it is alive and well. You gone, Jack?
Yeah, I gotta go. I'll see
All
y'all
right,
brothers
bro.
later.
I'll take it easy.
All right.
It's alive and well in America. So the things that you see coming from the west coast of Africa, and the things that you grew up with as a little boy that you used to see,
right?
Oh, brother, you about to see the American majority in a divided state against itself, casting itself out, like you used to see tribal division at home.
Yes. I just feel that through the election, that's what was happening actually. Even from Democrats and Republicans in their own circle. I mean, it was just fascinating how, of course, we talked about Hillary, and I was actually saying, hey, Hillary should have been the one in power, but then you explained to me why, she was not the chosen one, and they, actually had Donald Trump in front of her. And that's why I've noticed that, the political scene right now is being very segregated, if I can use that term.
Let me ask you a question. I'm familiar with the history of Cote d'Ivoire, but I'm not really familiar with the players. But I know there was, in that environment, there was a guy who was backing the French,
Yes.
who was black,
Yeah.
and then there was a black man who's a liberator that speaks for the people, right?
Yeah.
So you had those two. So what were those brothers' names?
One was Laurent Gbagbo,
Uh-huh.
and the other one, which he's the president right now, his name is Alassane Ouattara.
Okay.
And Ouattara right now is the president for the next 4 years,
Okay.
till 2020, basically.
Okay.
So,
So with that understanding, you have a people who want more of a part in the natural resources of your home.
mhm.
They want to experience what the life of those who are involved in the colonial economics that exist there still, but those who are indigenous are not involved.
Yes.
So when you look at Hillary and you look at President-elect Donald Trump, you have to look at the histories of those two people. Here you have a woman who set the policy to put black people in prison at the rate in which they were for the last 20 years. But that is not the question. The question is, what is it about black Americans that they still wanted her to be president, even after admitting doing that and upset that she didn't get it off? When Donald Trump has never done anything like that to us. But you don't want him in the office because he says he's a racist, but you want the one in office who doesn't tell you they're a racist. They do everything to verify that they absolutely are not your friend and a greater racist than the one you have an issue with. Look, we have to ask ourselves a question. What is going on in our mind as a people to where we would want to continue that process between either or? But the question is, you actually were upset that the one who did you the most harm did not get back in place like she was going to do right this time.
Right. That's a nice factual statement right there. Because now I'm thinking about that right now, and I'm thinking about how she was talking about what was the word she used?
Super predators.
Super predators. And and actually I was actually here, but back then I was learning English.
Yes, sir.
I was actually learning how to speak English before learning the system.
You had just got to America.
Yes, thank you very much. Just like not like coming to America though.
No, brother, I understand. I told you I worked in Ghana for almost a year.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying. But culturally, a lot of people don't understand the condition of the mind of a black American. I did some work in Ghana, and I won't go into that. But I was sitting down with some people who actually run the Ghana broadcasting system in Ghana, and I hired them to do the job that I was doing. So we had a dinner at the end of the night. And at the end of the night, the brother who was the president, he said, brother, I have a question I want to ask you. I said, yes, sir. Whatever the question is. Right. He said, I want to know why black Americans have not come here to help us. I said, I'm sorry, baby. I just want to be sure I'm clear. So you want to know what? I want to know. He's DMing. You know how when the African brother gets emotional, how it comes out.
Just
if it was two black men in America, it might be a fight. That's how it's said, because how the brother be putting some emphasis on it, right?
Very passionate.
My brother's passion. I want to know why you all have not come here to help us. I said, brother, where do you live? He said, I live in Ghana. I said, what is your name? And his name was, I forget Kwame, whatever, but a name to the geographic back home. I said, what language do you speak? He said, I speak Tree, English, and other languages. I said, what's your religion? He gave me the religion of his homeland. I said, so you want a man who doesn't know his name, who doesn't know his religion, who doesn't know where he's from, who doesn't speak his own language to help you how? It's not in his own country. How's a person who understands like that going to help you? How am I going to do that? I'm ignorant to who I am. Every black man in America is running around 90% of them. are running around with the name of their former slave.
I blame the system for that.
Brother, it doesn't matter. When the system, just like we say, we're up from slavery, will leave the name there if you up from it. Stop carrying it around like a badge of honor.
Johnson family
Or Washington's family, Jefferson's family, the Williamses. I know people don't want to hear this, but the scripture has a. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bible, but I always like to bring it in because it is a reality in Black America.
Yes. Way across.
Hey, that's a whole nother story. But it's a reality in Black America. The scripture says that there will be a man coming around taking names. It also says that a good name in the end is better than gold. Now, we won't go into that. That's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah.
It's a whole other story for another day. However, when you look at when I walk in the room, I hide my husband. When I talk to them on the phone, when I walk in the room, they're not expecting to see me.
Yes.
Oh, your name is Ahad Muhammad? Yes, I'm Ahad Muhammad. Now they don't know how to deal with me. And I'm glad I'm talking to you.
Right.
Because tell me your full name, man.
French.
Yes, sir.
Yaggah Bill.
Now, brother Yaggah Bill. Now, when you say that name and you go in the office and you have, let's say Jamal was with you, do they treat you the same way they treat Jamal?
Different. Very different.
Right? Now, they treat you like a free man, but they treat him like property. And they only do that because they know that you are not from him.
But then again, I gotta take it too, because even if you're like a freeman, but they're still,
they're dealing with you totally different.
As far as a foreigner,
Yes.
It's more like when people meet me, oh, I love, this some stuff from West Africa, East Africans, and it's like they don't understand who we are as far as people,
But it's a culture that they don't have any idea about. They have respect. But what is the culture of the American black man? What is it?
It should be an African.
No. I didn't say what. I didn't say, brother. I didn't say should be. I said what is it? Now you've been here for 20 years. You've been hanging out with us for 20 years.
Yeah.
What is our culture? We don't have one. We don't.
Why would you? I mean, okay.
I know what is our cultural dress? What's our cultural dress, brother?
Jeans, t-shirts.
Okay. Everybody wear that.
Everybody wear that.
Like a man told me, he said, "What language you speak at home?" I said, "English." He said, "No, brother. Everybody speak English. What language you speak at home?"
That's a good one.
I mean, we so smart in America, we only speak one language. Wow. The rest of the world speak 4 or 5. But wow.
Brother, I gotta say, I don't like. Okay, I just came to a realization maybe a couple of years ago after I hung out with, lots of brothers. They were from the streets, either from working brothers and urban brothers. I'm not gonna say street brothers, so I won't divide this to gang because
everybody's from the street. They just become urban after.
Urban, yeah. So, and I don't know what brothers mean. One thing I've noticed is from the socialization that I have with them and kind of with them, right? I just noticed the stuff that they're saying. Like you talk about ignorance and so forth. I used to be one of those Africans that was in America, and I always wonder like, why we not, why we can't do this? Why we have to have all short and just to fight our battles? How do we? It was just a why? It wasn't just now I can understand. That's why I just said the system. And I blame the system, even though I refuse to be a victim of the system. And I always promote to all my brothers out there to stop being victimized by the system and to stand up. Go make your money, take care of your family, but take care of your foundation. I don't really blame all my brothers and sisters. I don't blame Black America for whatever propaganda, whatever context that they bring to me. Because I always hear like, the voting right, for instance. And you even told me about how the voting right is a systematic thing for us not to actually get to the poll. But then again, like the freedom, I just thought, we were free until I realized there were some loopholes from getting a loan to even getting a house to even going up and getting a better job.
Let's look at that. And that's a very good point.
Right.
How many Japanese Americans you think there are?
Maybe a few, maybe
Less than black people?
Yeah, less than black people, less than Latino.
How many Korean Americans you think there are?
Probably,
Less than black people?
yeah, probably the same range, that same percentage. Yeah.
Indians? From India?
From India, same thing.
Indians from America?
Yep.
Same thing.
Yep.
Okay, so let me see. Let's get one more group on the board so we can just be fair. So, Arabians. How many?
Just it's a little bit more than the Koreans, but
Okay. Ethiopians.
oh,
Yeah, but it's compared to that.
let's compare. Yeah.
So, who represents them in the vote?
No.
They have their own banks?
No.
No. Japanese do.
Yeah, they do.
Koreans do.
Yes.
Chinese do.
Yeah.
Indians do.
Yeah.
They don't have no representation in political circles. How do they do that? And why is it that they don't need it to do that?
Because they have the backings.
Oh, they're in unity. So what does
Yeah.
political power have to do with economic structure if you're taking care and dealing with yourself? If I'm banking with myself, I can borrow from myself.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be, if stated, that we have 1.3 in circulation annually in America? You think there are people who are actually benefiting from that other than the people in the black community when we spend our money? Do you think if we took back 20% of it, we might have a better environment for ourselves? Well, then maybe we should act like they do. They don't. They take money out of our community to their community.
Oh, a lot.
And if you try to go put a business in Chinatown, you think anybody would patronize? You wouldn't go sell your fried chicken in Chinatown. You think anybody gonna buy it?
That right there is an international issue.
Well, let me ask you a question. When they put up a Louisiana fried chicken in the hood, do we go to it? Absolutely. Because we don't operate off the same principle. And what they would call a racist statement I just made, it's not a racist statement when you take those sacks of money out of the community every Friday and don't even put it in a bank that represents us. That's not racist. So, you get your value system by those who have trained you. You get your value system by those who have governed you. You get your value system by those who have taken away any other system of belief that you could have if you're not a person who has their own land, has their own land, has their own country.
Right.
Dealing with their own religion. This is necessary. Now, I'm just going to say this, for our viewing audience on YouTube, lean over. Lean over, just lean over a little bit.
Okay, right there.
Like Constantine said,
You got
in hoc, sin Q, win case. In this sign we conquer. Well, that's why we don't have it.
Well, we need to conquer.
We don't have it because that sign is all we believe in.
Yes.
And that sign has promoted division amongst all the people of color.
Yes.
That sign is not even the sign of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ's sign is a fish. A fish, bro. Get you a fish. Just to wake up the crowd. Get you a fish.
A necklace fish.
If it's Jesus, get you a fish. Because that represents Jesus Christ. If you go understand what's going on.
Right.
That's like saying, my man Jesus, he got killed in an electric chair. So I'm going to give you an electric chair. Really? Really?
So let me ask you this. So do you believe in economic racism? Since you mentioned all those attributes about how we basically need to help each other, but we don't help each other.
Well, brother,
with all that money circulating.
So let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. If I was a young boy, right, and I got raped by a man at 10, would that affect me when I'm 20?
Yes.
Okay. So if I was a slave 400 years ago, and I worked every day and did not get a dime, would that affect me 400 years later?
Absolutely.
Okay, that answers your question. Okay.
Straight to the point. Straight to the point. I said,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to ask that because I've heard about.
Come on.
I mean, for the first time in my adult life, I'm just so fortunate just to be out here in the United States and
Right.
Just to learn the loophole because if you were in Europe and if you were in somewhere else, like you said, your rights will be infringed, or your right won't even being, your liberty will be just restricted.
But the beautiful part is, but a lesser degree of racism.
Yes.
Your liberties might be extreme. Yeah, you're gonna walk down the street, you gotta have a camera, it's gonna take a picture of it. But the liberal understanding of black people in Europe is better than in America.
Yes, that's true.
It's better than in America. You got a man who brought you here. I mean, I know people listen like, man, he's hard on. I said, that's not that I'm hard on it. It's just that you just want to be soft on everything that they do and then complain.
Right. That's a fact.
If it's a sister saying I'm soft, yeah, you're not soft on the brother when he ain't got no money to give you for that baby that y'all created together. But now it's Friday and you want to get paid, and you got the white man chasing him down with child support because you can. Mm-hmm. But then when he don't have no money, you mad at him, but you ain't mad at the system that's not allowing him to go to work. You're not mad at that. You're not mad at the system that's making it difficult for him to even support his family. You're not mad at that. You're just mad at the man that you laid down with, that you no longer with, that you got a child with, that you want to pay for and don't have no money. Because you didn't care about, I'm not going to say it. You did care about that. But now it's all about money.
So you believe there's a systematic issue that we have to get out of it?
400, brother. Look at it, excuse me. LeBron played on 2 teams at 3 different times. Right. He left one team, and he was still the dominant player when he left because he couldn't win a championship because of the system they were using. I make a plain for all you people who can't understand it. Right. Sports analogies.
Go Cavs.
Go Cavs. Then he went down, and the system, him and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade and LeBron James got together and said, we're going to win us a championship.
Big weeks.
So, but they had some squawkers. They had some masters in Cleveland that talk about LeBron pretty bad, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The rest of the masters in the league, there was, quote unquote, team owners. They owning some people. Owners. Owners.
Sportsmanship. Fellas.
Owners. So these owners got together and had an issue with what they were doing. Okay.
I remember
then they went down into Miami and won a couple of championships.
Right.
Then the system changed and they lost a couple of championships.
Yep.
Then LeBron left that system because he got a problem from an owner, the same owner who burnt his jersey and went back and said, you in charge of the system now. Right?
Me and LeBron's in charge of the system.
LeBron's in charge of the system. Oh, yeah. That's what he said. I'm not going to interfere if you come back and you please win the championship. Right?
Yeah.
Then he goes to the NBA championship and Kyrie goes down. He just missed his first. And they come back and they win it the second. So let's say the players were the same. Right? They were involved in the same association. The only thing that was different was what? The system. And he had to step outside the system and get what he wants. So that's the same thing. We cannot get what we want in this system. We've tried for 461 years. And the sad part is that this system is going to go the way on Black Coffee. If you get a chance to catch my show, we're going to be dealing with a topic called The Sun Never Sets on the British Empire. Now, I know a lot of people are like, here, because we're talking about Now, my brother here, Fabrice, knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Y'all better listen to Black Coffee. I'm gonna be on your live, stream live and let you know about it. This is interesting. I'm still going back to the same dude that left that message on Facebook. Like, really? Like, are you serious? Who are you? Anyway, we'll
leave that hidden down and buried.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is that we're going to be dealing with the sun never sets on the British Empire. Now that statement started with the Spanish, right? And the Spanish went all over the world, colonizing the world. That's how people in Latin America. And we really got to pay attention. That's a beautiful part of speaking language, but we really have to pay attention to speak Spanish. Now, I was speaking to one of the brothers here who's a Mexican American, and I told him, I said, I don't want to call you Spanish because in my way I look at it, that's like calling you the N-word. He kind of like backed up, and why do you say that? I said, you know what the word? I'm talking about not Spanish, but Latin.
Latin, yeah.
Latin.
Yes.
I said, you know where the word Latin came from? He's like, well, no. I said, Latin is a Germanic tribe that first settled their tribe of cavemen that came out of the hills of Europe and settled in Rome, in the area of Rome, and that tribe was called Latin. So we are under the misunderstanding of that. The language they spoke was Latin. So we are saying that they are Latin American. How can they be Latin Americans if they all the way over here?
Yeah.
Latins was a tribe out of the hills and caves of Europe when they came down out of those caves.
Right.
So to call yourself a Latin American, you would have to first be a European.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not.
You're not, because you're basically Aztec.
Well, there you go. Mayans, Aztec, everything else. But this is us being colonial. So now you're a Spanish American. Wow. They have two versions of Spanish. I know you know. This is the Spanish they speak over here. The colloquial Spanish is Spanish came from Spain.
Yeah.
But how did you become a race of people named after a language?
I'm gonna get deported if I talk about this right there.
So it's a real big trick, brother. You are now you're Spanish. That's a language. That's not a race. Spanish is not a race. It's a language. The conquistadors spoke Spanish. So what race were you before they came?
For that.
Because it wasn't Spanish. So now today, we call ourselves African American. Now, I really used to have a problem with that. Then I did a little study on history.
Uh-huh.
And then I fell in love with it.
Because I don't like the N word, the Negro.
Well, it's befitting. It's befitting. It's befitting. The word Negro comes from the word necro or negro. Necro or negro, and negro all mean something that is dead. We are dead to the knowledge of ourselves. A necrophiliac is somebody who likes to sleep with dead people, or there's other things people like to do with people. But they like dead folks.
No zombie status quo.
No, these are dead people. But so that's where that name's come from. So it's befitting, but we try to change it around and make it something acceptable. But we don't have a high enough understanding of language, again, to understand what people are actually saying. The Portuguese went down into this southern hemisphere, now called South America. Okay, all the people down there call themselves speak Portuguese, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they call themselves Brazilian. These they don't call it. I'm a Portuguese. These they're smart enough not the black people down there. So I'm a Portuguese. They say I speak Portuguese. Portugal. It's not a race. It's a language. So when we talk, we have to talk intelligently. Yeah. You didn't say you're from Cote d'Ivoire, but you're a Frenchman.
Oh, actually speaking of that, most people, when I tell them I'm from Cote d'Ivoire, and they say, what kind of language do you speak? And I tell them, I speak French, but I have another language.
Right.
So I always make sure because I tell them French is the official governmental
Colonial language.
Colonial, not to, yeah, not to, just to be more in the safe side.
Right.
I use governmental, so because I already know. And it's next question asked me, so you're French? I said, no, I'm Ivorian. I speak French,
Right.
but I'm from Cote d'Ivoire. I was born and raised in Cote d'Ivoire.
Right.
I just, it's born in a word
It
where
was the language of the
all
colony.
the colonists.
Now, how long are the colonies? They haven't been there over 200 years.
No,
Because
to 1960.
see, what a lot of people don't know, and I know we were talking about something else, but since you want to talk to me today, we gonna have this little
Oh
conversation.
yeah. And we live
And
too.
we're gonna have this little conversation.
YouTube live.
We're gonna have this little conversation.
Right.
But what a lot of people don't know is that the Europeans didn't know nothing about Africa until they met a man named Muhammad Hassan,
Yes.
who they call Leo Africanus.
I was gonna say another one, Samuel Touré from West Africa, when
Yes, sir.
West. But yeah, man, let's go to history though. Let's go to history though.
Because because they wrote the Italian book, A Depiction of Africa.
Yes.
You know that book, right? Americans don't know that. But I told you.
Oh, we're gonna get in trouble. Don't do much.
They know this is not hurting the government. This is just a history of the black
history.
world.
Yes.
The history of the black world.
And we need to know that.
Yeah, we need to know it.
Yes.
So a lot of people say Leo Africanus. Africa is named after Leo Africanus. Yes, it is only named after Leo Africanus because King Leo I don't know what he was, 11, 13, whoever.
I think the 13.
11th or the 13th.
Yeah.
He captured Muhammad Hassan in northern Africa, took him back to Rome as a slave. He was locked up and found out the intelligence of the man, put him like in his own cabinet, and he began to explain to him what was in Africa. And because he was a traveler and a merchant, and his father traveled all of northern Africa, right? So he came in contact with the king directly. Mm-hmm. So the king, for all of the people named Johnson and Williams and Jefferson, changed his name. It made him accept Catholicism as a religion to live as a slave.
Oh,
wait. This is just the history.
Yeah.
And he changed his name to Leo Africanus, or Leo the African. And so he wrote the book so they could come down into Africa about the trade lines and the African topography and geography and how it's shaped. And he gave them all of this so they can begin their way down into Africa. So he is known because without this book, the European would not have had a way into Africa.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Now, this is a history that most Africans know because they suffer from colonialism of Europeans to today. But we as African Americans don't know because it's not taught as a history of anything that we would like to know. So now we call ourselves African Americans. And some, like, I used to go into colleges and just
to rip people up about that name.
I used to tear them up about that name. I was so bad. It was just, why are you called? This is what I used to say. I said, basically, you say you want to be African American. Basically, you just want to say white man, white man. That's what I would tell you. I said, you just want to be named after two white men because there was a reason they changed the narrative from African American, from black to African American. Black lets you know that there's black men all over the earth.
Yes. Unity.
But geographical, I asked them, we were having a conversation last week. I said, so you from Jamaica, right? You from Trinidad. You from Barbados. So you call yourself, your narrative is that little island. That's it, right?
And that shouldn't be that way. It should be just, black as a whole, like black entities.
You have now accepted the colonialization of the people who colonized you. and use that as a tool of separation from the people whom you are closest relatives to. So the landmass has become more important than the actual bloodline that you're from. And that's why in the hood, this is my block. Don't go across the street. That's them other brothers over there.
That is black segregation to the third degree.
Yeah, well, but it's done on a local level, a government level, a national level. It's all a sign of being a colonial slave.
So basically, in order for us to, reduce the ignorance of the propaganda that we carry systematically, we have to basically start educating ourselves now. What do you think? Maybe start focusing on the children,
Because I think that would be best. Because, I mean, you have to be a conscious person to want to study beyond what you believe is the truth already.
yes,
Children are still being formed. Their minds are being formed. And if you form the mind right now, then you don't have to worry about what they'll grow up and do. But today, what mind does a black person, who voted for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton give their children? That their only result is in someone who doesn't look like themselves. But how could a child respect you? You need to teach her to respect herself.
just like when they choose a dog, the white dog as a clean, proper dog. I mean,
Brother, you know, and I know. Just like what you're saying, but that's acceptable.
Yeah.
But if you go to their house and you give them a black dog, give them a black dog for Christmas and go look at that dog next Christmas. go to your friend's house and go looking like you and give them a black dog for Christmas and then come back and ask them about that dog next Christmas.
Man, you're gonna have a refund at Walmart. Say it like that.
Excuse me. If you don't give them a receipt, you don't have to worry about it. It'll just end up with the wrapper for the gifts as it goes out the door.
I just think that we should, it has to start with like me. When I encounter with, my brothers out in America, and I have to use that term, my brothers, because
That's right.
I don't want to use African American. I don't even want to use the N word like this,
Right.
unless if I know someone, personally. And I'm not trying to say everybody to use the N word like this, because this is not what this is about. It's about unity and resolution. When I talk to a couple of my brothers and sisters, I always try to let them know, which I know most of them politics. They always tell me, "Oh, we talk politics," and I tell them, that is the problem right there. Once you say this, guess who's winning? The people up there, because the same thing that you guys went and didn't vote or wasn't into the voting system or didn't participate in the campaign. It's the same thing you tell me, and then you be the one complaining about your BS money, your check, whatever job status that you at, how people treat you, because those are all in the Constitution where it's supposed to protect you. But somehow the way they use that Constitution, they're using it backwards. And this is supposed to protect us. I mean, yes, it wasn't designed for us, but the way they put it, if we want to be in plain English, besides going to to the background of the black ink, with that white paper, it's supposed to protect
In plain English, it says 3/5 of a man. In plain English, in the Constitution.
3/5 of a man.
3/5. So in plain English, you're not a man. So when we talk about that Constitution, yes, we should pay attention to it.
Yes.
So if somebody writes something as the law of the land, and you live in the land, and you're not subject to the same rights of the people who wrote the law,
Right.
then you are not a citizen of the land. Because citizens are subject to the same law that other citizens are subject to.
Right. I agree.
But is that the case? No.
No, that's not the case.
It's not the case. The problem is you are still asking somebody who does not intend to give you that, but something that they are incapable of giving you. They're incapable of it. These are people with two different natures, two totally different natures. We have been all over the earth for thousands and millions of years with all the people on the earth. And they know us as the Ancient of Days.
Right.
And they never said the Ancient of Days came over and killed us all, took all our money, took our city, took none of that.
That's true.
They didn't say that about us.
Nope.
They accepted us everywhere we went.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Okay. Then there became a new fellow on the planet who brought a whole different understanding. That's why I say you have to go back to scripture. You have to accept the way most people want to read scripture from a very spooky perspective. And as soon as y'all meet the spook that kicked you out your house or in slavery, introduce me to it.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a spook who did that. It was a human being.
Yes.
But you got more fear of something you can't see than you do of the reality of the mind of a concept that is totally against your well-being. You would prefer to let your heart race over the spook.
Mm-hmm.
And teach your children to love the one who's right in your face, mistreating you. That is a psychological problem. Right?
I do agree.
That's a psychological
agree on that,
brother. That's
yes.
a psychological problem.
That is psychological.
If
And
I go home every day and tell my wife I love her, and you see her with two black eyes today, and she limping tomorrow, and the next day she bent over, and the next day she got a cut on her face, and she said, "Oh, he loves me," what would you tell her?
I would tell her, please leave this man alone.
You would tell her first. You would tell her you a fool. That's the first thing you say. You out your mind. Mentally wrong with you.
What are you doing in this relationship?
Exactly. You need to hurry up and get out of that relationship.
But like you mentioned about the education, some folks don't know how to go about it, so it's like really, that's what we get still caught up with.
Well, but there are messages that are out there that will show you a way out. But the problem is, I go back to, my wife comes back to me and asks me if it's okay if she leaves.
Good point. Woo, man, you too. We live, man. We live.
You hear what I'm saying?
Man,
she comes back and asks me, is it okay if she leaves me after I just abused her like that? Is it okay? Now, what am I going to say? Obviously, I'm a sociopath. And what is any well-minded sociopath going to say? A well-minded sociopath is going to say, baby, don't leave me. I love you. Stay right here. I promise I won't do it again. Reagan. I promise I won't do it again. Washington. Promise I won't do it again. Roosevelt. I promise I won't do it again. Trump. I promise I won't do it again. Clinton. I promise I won't do it again. Obama. I promise I won't do it again.
But then we're on this, I believe all those folks, like you mentioned about the high powered elite, I think maybe the president of the United States, all those leaders are not just leaders, they have they have corporations. Like, like I know you made a joke about, some of our leaders where when they speak, there's no brought to you by Toyota. Or maybe the big store, the big store with the blue sign and the little star.
I'll just say this to to the people in the community. It is brought to you by a corporation. You might want to get a new leader, especially if you have a black leader that's brought to you by corporate America. Anybody funding us and our liberation, it ain't us. I am skeptical of, and I'm skeptical of that leader.
Yes. Because
those who are opposed to our rise are not going to fund it. That's true. They're only going to bring you somebody who's going to make sure that you remain in the current condition that you are in. Now, this is not a playbook that you can argue with. This playbook has been set.
Yes.
This playbook is taking place for hundreds of years. And no better time can we see it any clearer than the last 10 years.
Right.
I got a question for you. Out of all the black leaders in America, who would you say is one that we could trust?
Alive or dead?
They dead, trust don't matter.
You know, I've read a lot of. I read a lot of. I mean, I know everybody might think I may say, but I was looking at Brother X, man.
Who's that?
Malcolm X.
I love Malcolm, but Malcolm ain't here.
I know you said dead or alive. That's why I said dead or alive. Because Desmond Tutu was one, and then I was just looking at the history and the Catholicism. Even though I am one, but I don't. It's not something I'm preaching to everybody. But it's
the Catholicism you practice is different from the Catholicism they preach.
They preach exactly because they don't. They tell me to follow faith, but then again, it's like I'm doing this, but you're doing the opposite of what I'm doing. It's like my mom, my parents or my. I ain't gonna put my people out there like I used to hear do as I say but don't do as I do type of thing, do as I say but don't do as I do, and to me it was like okay, X, and
I don't want to be knocking on my door in the morning.
No.
Maybe I should hold this next comment.
No, I'm not going to. Okay, the reason why I said X because when I read the history of Brother Malcolm X, Brother, MLK, Martin Luther King, rest in peace. When I read about, even from Desmond, from South African leader who also was killed, we can go right back to it, to even Samuel Touré. But something like that, Malcolm X was just too real for the establishment, too real to the point. And I even look at, compared to, I can say Tupac. Don't look at the gangster side of it. Look at the spiritual conscience brother of it. That's what they didn't like it. And I just feel like in America, righteousness is always being criticized. Too righteous can be assassinated.
Well,
and
my question to you then, you said Malcolm.
Yes.
Okay. So if Malcolm was alive, he would be your choice.
He would be my choice because I know if he was alive, Black America, or I should say the Afrikaners as a whole, wouldn't be in the same particular right now.
Well, let's just say God has never leads you wrong. So you would be looking for a voice like that.
Yes.
And most people do have an affinity for Malcolm.
Yes.
The sad part is, brothers no longer with him. They got to be with him. But God left us Jesse.
That is Jesse. I just asked you earlier, what do you think about the new leader?
I'm just throwing some stuff out there. God left us Al Sharpton. God left us a whole bunch of other people that you know. But there are people who actually today represent that mind that Malcolm has, but you don't hear about it. But if you look at the major movements in the Black community, they're not sponsored by Toyota. They're not sponsored by.
You said it. He said it. So no longer. No,
See, everybody. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry. They're not sponsored by Nike. You know what I'm saying? They're not sponsored by Whirlpool. They won't have a Walmart commercial. You know what I'm saying? You won't find them speaking for the NBA or the NFL.
Yeah.
But you'll find those whom you love that are standing up for our people, listening to those who are speaking for our people who are now standing up.
Then you can say, man, I can go back to.
Well, you don't have to go back no further because I don't want you to look any further because there is a man in our midst today, right now, spoke today, will be speaking tomorrow, that all of us should be listening to. If you're not looking for somebody,
by the green store that's building up,
sponsored by the American government. Now, tomorrow, for all your listeners tomorrow, The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan
Right on.
will be speaking tomorrow and at the State of the Black World Conference in New Jersey.
What time will that be?
I'm not sure. You have to look it up online.
Okay.
But he'll be speaking tomorrow. Now, you say Farrakhan, and everybody knows that voice.
Oh yeah, Farrakhan.
But here's the problem. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm gonna give you a little scriptural reference.
Right.
Moses had taken the people into the promised land. And when he got into the promised land, he said, okay, now we must go over that hill and take the land. And they came back and said, oh, Moses, there's some giants over there. Now God had just freed them. From Pharaoh.
Right.
He parted the Red Sea.
Yeah.
And allowed them to walk to the other side. Now that's kind of miraculous, right?
Mm-hmm. That is.
Then God's instruction for Moses is to go into the land and take the land. But the same Negroes, the same Egyptians, the same Egyptians are talking about how
America, Moses,
are talking about how they want to go back and be with Pharaoh because now they gotta fend for themselves.
They gotta work for themselves.
They gotta provide for themselves. They gotta create a world for themselves.
That makes that's a little bit close to what's happening
right look here. But Pharaoh is gone now. Mm-hmm. See how God had to be? God had to be so definitive with Pharaoh, and he had to be that definitive with Pharaoh because he could not break the love of the Egyptians who he came and chose as his people for Pharaoh if Pharaoh still existed. So it was really the Egyptians' rebellion to God's instruction that caused God to have to drown Pharaoh, just so they couldn't go back. Anything that resembles something going on today is not a coincidence.
No, and it's actually happened to me because now that you mentioned all that, and I'm thinking this is something that I believe some people like from at home, from Africa, certain nations in Africa, not all, to maybe what's happening here, that we seems to go right back to Hillary Clinton, I guess. Because we,
well, look,
I mean, it's an example though. But
let's take it from an African perspective.
Yeah.
Because most Black Americans do not really know what's going on.
No, they don't. They only see Ebola or civil war. That's
because a civil war is being driven by people who have arms given them to people who don't. Telling them we're going to fight over the economic resources of the land. I don't know. I like a man with testicular fortitude.
Right.
The dried up raisin dudes, I'm not with them. I'm with the watermelon cats. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah, and most Black American men, this is a raisin group. It's a raisin group. Because they still don't want to separate from that which is not allowing them to become men.
Yeah, which is a problem though.
But so you got a brother down there on the East Coast, most central eastern Africa, Mr. Mugabe.
Right. Oh, big shout out, President. Big shout out. If you listen to YouTube, big shout out, President.
And I can't say enough that there are people from Europe who have a real issue with what he's doing.
Yes, they do.
But they did not have an issue with the famine and the pestilence and disease and the condition of the indigenous people of that country. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a problem with that. They didn't have a problem with them not being able to raise their own food. They didn't have a problem with them not being able to have money for their family. They didn't have a problem with them being impoverished. They didn't even want to address it at all until he says, well, it's time for y'all to go back to Europe.
And then came out with to get the United Nations.
Exactly. It's time for you to go back to Europe. You hear what I'm saying?
Right on.
It's time for you to go back to Europe, bro.
Yes.
It's time. Now,
Yes, indeed.
that is no different because 100 years ago, somebody came and said, we're taking the land.
Mhm.
And 100 years later, somebody says, okay, it's time to give up the land.
Mhm.
These things are, it's a process of freedom.
Right.
And you can't get mad if you benefited off of somebody else's labor and became rich for 100 years. And then you have to go. You can't get mad at that. Look at how you benefited. You should say thank you. I understood this time was coming, and thank you for the hand up. I'll go back in my country and be a millionaire. Whatever I made myself down here, raping and robbing and pillaging your land. But this people can't look at it that way. They can't see it that way because they don't want to have that kind of humanity, but they go all over the world in the name of it.
Right.
So now, Donald Trump said, one of the worst things we could have ever done was go into Iraq. Now, we talk about what goes on in America, and we should. No, you should not let anybody. I'm a Muslim. And you should not let anybody in the country who claims that they're a Muslim that's coming to do harm to people who have done nothing to them in America.
True.
I agree.
True.
You should not let them in with that idea. But again, that's just your white brother who says he's a Muslim coming to do something to his white brother who says he's a Christian. That's a history y'all got for thousands of years fighting each other like you fight each other.
Mhm.
That's not our history. But if we don't understand history, you wouldn't understand that that's not even an argument for us to be involved in. If that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do that. But the point I'm trying to make is, over the last 20 years, nobody said nothing, but there's an estimation that in those countries, there has been the loss to the number of 8 million Muslim lives.
Yes.
8 million.
That's a lot.
In 5 countries.
That's a lot.
Now I know Cowboy and Big Buck and Bobby Joe got a problem with what I just said, but that's the truth. You are upset with the world, and you're trying to be the world's policeman. If this is your country, stay in your country.
That's why I hope the African Union can just build African, basically an African strong union like Gaddafi was trying to do.
I was going to say, that's where I was going, and I'm glad you said that. Look at the beauty of our leader, Muammar Gaddafi. Look at the strength of that man. Look at the strength of it.
He was a true leader. I mean, everybody might disagree.
No, they can't disagree with the facts. Go study the history. Right. He went to the people. Everybody got a house and a car.
Yes.
Everybody gained money from the oil that the country was making. You had free medical, free education. There were no homeless people. No. If you didn't have a house, he built one. He lived in a tent.
Yep. He was an old school with a lot of gold, man.
His country was debt free. Now, no matter what you say, no matter how you feel about it, back and says that man is a threat to our reality, then who are you? If he's doing all that good, who are you that he's a threat to your reality? Well, let's take it back to biblical days. Who would be Satan's number one threat?
God.
Okay. Okay, right?
Faith in man.
The only person that can check Satan is God.
God.
Right? Is that right?
Yes, indeed.
Since he's the one that gave him his power.
Yes.
And that's another thing that we don't like to talk about. People talk about the devil this and the devil that. I'm like, who gave the devil 6 days to rule? Who said you can go do your thing for 6 days? But in the 7th day, I'm coming to check you out.
Yeah.
But God gave him 6 days, right?
Mhm.
Well, somebody been doing some damage for 6,000 years, and they ain't no smooth. We got a history of some people that have been doing damage for 6,000 years. And this is a history that they have to come in contact with to understand themselves. And we have to come in contact with to understand that, two different natures going on. Two different natures. So I don't want to belabor the point. I had the Yaggah man here. He came at me, so I wanted to get with him. He's my big brother, and we have this kind of conversation. The beautiful part is that I appreciate my brother because I can't have these conversations with people who have not, who don't understand the world.
Yes. It's kind of hard to find out nowadays. I mean, they do have. I mean, I appreciate all the smart brothers out there, all the smart, citizens out there. It's just unfortunately, it's kind of hard to find. How do I say common sense? I mean, morals and common sense. It seems that folks are so focused on the blind side of things. Like, okay, when Black Lives Matter was coming, here comes the icy birthday or something like this, or something to distract, the awareness of things. And and that's why I just said I don't blame a couple of my brothers because some they want to be either gang members or they want to be either they want to portray what America, what the system is already put in place for them to look like. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. So when I walk into a bank, they're gonna be confused about this. But okay, can we? What are you? And then plus, I have a weird name too. That's not from here.
No, brother, it's not. It's a beautiful name.
Yeah, I mean, I said weird
because it's weird to them because all they're doing is expecting to deal with them.
Exactly. So
I was looking at the 7 continents the other day. I don't know what put me on this point.
Right.
But this is just another topic just to bring this home. And so I said, man, my daughter was watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, okay.
And so in there, they said that one of the golden tickets was on one of the 5 continents.
Yes.
When he said that, I said, 5 continents? Why you say 5 continents? It was 7 continents.
Yeah.
So I said that he said it in the movie, so it sparked my catch stuff like that because my brain went. So at that point, I of course went to Google, started looking up stuff. I already know the 7 continents, but then I looked at the continents. The continents are connected landmasses.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the continent of Europe is not really a continent. It's connected to Asia via landmass. Right?
That's like the
The whole thing.
And then go Eastern Europe, and then you go to Persians.
So that led me to another look at Africa. And I was speaking to one of my Ethiopian brothers, who's a good friend of mine. I try to study world history because the best way to have any conversation with anyone that you don't know is to have respect for their culture enough to know something about it.
Right.
And so the odd thing is that when most people come here, even Black people from Africa, they know nothing about the sojourning of a Black person in America. When I go places, I go to different places, they ask me, where are you from? I said, what do you mean? Well, your name's Muhammad, where are you from?
Could you tell my accent, though?
Yeah,
I'm from Brooklyn, Bronx.
I have to tell her I'm straight out of Compton. Familiar with that? And that's no lie. You know what I'm saying? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, look, my parents, I have to explain it to you. I said, my parents were brought here via the trans-African slave trade.
Yes.
So I could not tell you where I was from because all of that history was taken from me. I know I'm not from here, but this is the only place I can relate to beyond the 400-year period. But as we go back there, I can't say I'm from Cote d'Ivoire, or Ghana, or Nigeria, or Morocco, or whatever South America was called before it was called South America.
Well, they have instantfree.com now. So I mean,
all,
I'm always wondering about that.
all they can do, brother, there are no records for slaves. Excuse me, there are some records, but there's no record that will take you back to the land because of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this. He said, if we studied our history and knew how close we were because of the slave trade, it would almost frighten us because that's how close we are related. The people who came into the middle class and those who made it, because they were all from the same tribe. Tribes are what? What are tribes really? Your tribes are what are they really? Families.
Family foundations.
No, they're families. They're groups of families, cousins, brothers, sisters, uncles that settle in the area, right?
Yep. What the big foundation?
Well, I'm just saying, but in the tribe,
The village. Yes.
the village are relatives.
Yes.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we got over here. Somebody said your relative who might have been your sister is now the person you're actually going to create another human being with. You know what I'm saying? So that's the case. So with that, we're gonna bring it to a close and let some. What's up, bro? We're gonna bring it to a close and let the party begin. And with me and the Yaggah man will be back the next week.
We'll be back, man. This was a brother talk, uncensored. Man. Brother,
We'll be back.
Thank you indeed.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
My
indeed.
pleasure.
We'll be out here. Hey, y'all check out We On Point coming up real soon. So stay tuned, y'all. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for Black Coffee on Internet Radio, Radio Phoenix. It's worldwide, so we can take this conversation to you also. Thank you.
Worldwide. Yaggah. Woo, that was so.
What do you do?
10 to 6 I'm trying.
What? You in?
Yeah.
The door?
Yeah, nobody answered the phone.
I didn't hear it ring.
Yeah, that's cool.
We didn't hear it ring. We would have answered it. Is the show on a 6? Got you. All right. It didn't ring. We've been sitting right here.
I was actually looking at the time.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
We was just in there chopping it up.